everybody, welcome back to Crochet by Landry. This week we're going to work on making 2 ornaments for our calendar blanket we're working on this year. So today we're going to make the wreath and the little snowman. So you're going to grab your Caron Simply Soft yarn and you're going to grab your 5mm hook and you're going to meet me at the craft table to make a wreath and a snowman. Okay everybody, so let's get started making our next piece of our calendar blanket, and we're going to start making some of the ornaments that go on our calendar blanket. So we're going to start with just 2 ornaments today. We're going to make the wreath and the snowman. So if you're following along with me with the pattern, you're going to be looking at the wreath and the snowman, and the things you're going to need are, of course, the pattern if you're using it to follow along with me. You're going to need your yarn. And I'm going to use the Caron Simply Soft in white, dark sage, and in robin's egg. A 5mm hook, some scissors, and of course a yarn needle for sewing in ends. And once you've got all your supplies, let's get started making our wreath and snowman. All right, so let's start with our wreath. And what we're going to do, we're going to make 2 pieces to make them exactly the same. So we're going to start with our dark sage here, and we're going to make a slip knot to begin. Okay, and you're going to chain 8 to begin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to join with a slip stitch to that first chain you made, which is right here. Be careful not to twist your chain. So join with a slip stitch. And now you're going to make a chain 2 for the first round. Now this first chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So keep that in mind. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets in the first where we joined. Okay, and then a half double crochet is yarn over, in the space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to put 2 half double crochets in every single stitch all the way around. So you should go from 8 to 16 by the time you reach the end. And you're just going to put 2 in each all the way around. And if you want to make sure you're counting, that's probably a good idea to make sure you don't miss a stitch or miss a chain, as it were. And once you've hit 16 half double crochets, I will meet you at the end and we will move on to round 2. I finished round 1. So what you're going to do to finish it off is slip stitch into your first half double crochet that you made. And then you're going to chain 1 to begin round 2. And what you're going to do now is you're just going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around, going from 16 stitches to 32. And once you've done that, I will meet back up with you and we will move on to the next piece together. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're actually just going to take a second and we're going to sew the inside of the wreath here. It's with your wrong sides together. You're just going to sew the center of your wreath closed. So you're just going to go either attach a new piece of yarn, or if you have a long enough tail from the beginning, use that. So what you're going to do is you're just going to go in and out of both pieces as best as you can. Go from one side. So I'm just going to put my needle back over here, and then I'm just going to go through both pieces as best as I can and as even as I can. Just sew the center part closed. That way we can sew the outsides, or make the outsides look pretty. We'll do that in a second. Okay, I think I got about maybe 1 or 2 more stitches to go. Try not to let your piece fly off the table. Okay. I got one more. All I'm going to do now is I'm just going to weave my piece in through the into the center, and I'm just going to leave it there and trim my tail just to make it a little bit, and I'm just going to tuck those in and they'll just stay inside. Now what you want to do is grab your white yarn and make a slip knot and put it on your hook. And once you've done that, we're going to make the outside trim of our wreath. Let's start making the outside trim on our wreath here. So what you're going to do is take your white yarn that's on your hook, and you're going to put your hook through both pieces. Anywhere along the outside edge is fine. It's not a big deal where you start. So you're going to put it through both pieces, and you're just going to join with a slip stitch. Okay, and then you're going to chain one to begin your first round. And I'm just going to take my white tail here, and I'm just going to actually tuck it in on the inside, like my green ones. That way I don't have to worry about weaving them in later. And what you're going to do now is you're going to put one single crochet back into that same space, and then one in the, in the next stitch beside it. Now you're doing your best to line up your stitches. Okay, and now what you're going to do is you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then you're going to go and put one single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 and 2, and then it kind of creates a little point. Okay, and then you're just going to repeat that. So chain 2, and then 1 stitch, 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And you're just going to repeat this until you get all the way around. And once you get back to the beginning, I will show you how to make the loop for our ornament. Okay, so what you want to do now is you want to, once you get back to the beginning, slip stitch to that first single crochet that you made. And to make the loop, so you can hang these on your blanket part, you're going to want to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then slip stitch back into that same place where you closed off your last round without letting the yarn slip off your hook. Just slip stitch back in there. Sorry, my hands aren't working properly today. There we go. And you have a little loop so you can put it over your button. And then to fasten off, just chain 1, trim your yarn. Doesn't have to be too long. And then take a second so we can keep our project nice and neat and tidy here. Take a second and weave in whatever ends or end you have, so you don't have to do it later. Okay, and then just trim that end. There we go. And there's the wreath part. So let's take our second and get our robin's egg ready to go. And we're gonna make the bow. So you're gonna do it with a slip knot. Okay, and then you're going to chain 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And then you're going to fasten off. Leave a little tail, but not too long. Okay. Now, what you want to do is you want to take your long chain that you have here, and you're going to want to tie the chain into a bow and then sew it on to your wreath. So let's see here. You're going to want to tie it into a bow. So tie it into a bow. Let's see, tie these ends. Okay. I think that's pretty darn good if I do say so myself. There we go. So make a little bow with your chain. And then what you're going to do is it's going to go on the bottom of your wreath. Try to get it as close to the middle as you can. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to stitch it on. Now, let's see here. Okay. Make these tails a little longer, a little shorter, sorry. Not so far to travel. There we go. Okay, so sew your bow as close to the center as you can get. Okay. And your ends, if you want, you can just kind of try to weave them in the middle like you did with the other tails that you had. Just kind of toss them in the center of your project. And then if you want, just trim them short. And then do the same thing with the other one. And there is your little wreath for your calendar blanket. Now let's move on and grab our yarn for the snowman. Okay, so we're gonna start with our snowman, and we're gonna start with a slip knot. And you're gonna use your white for your snowman body. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna chain 2. And you're also gonna do 8 single crochets in that second chain from the hook. 1, 2, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And now what we're going to do is you're going to slip stitch to that first single crochet that you made. Okay. And now for round 2, you're going to chain 1 to begin, and you're going to single crochet 1 in the first where you joined. Okay. And then 1 in each stitch around, and then you're going to rejoin to that first single crochet you made. So just 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. And then once you get all the way back around, I'll meet you at the beginning and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I just finished round 2. So for the rest of the head, you're just going to repeat round 2 more times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in a time lapse, and I'll catch up with you at the end of your next 2 rounds. So for round 2, you're going to chain 1 to begin, and then all you're going to do is just put 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. Once you get back to the beginning, slip stitch to that first single crochet, and you're going to repeat round 2 3 more times. So you should have a total of 5 rounds in the body. Once you get to the end of your 3rd repeat, I will meet you there, and we will move on to closing off our snowman body and giving him a face together.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay.
I just finished off my last repeat, and for the next round I'm going to chain 1 after I've done my slip stitch, and I'm going to do what's called a single crochet 2 together stitch. So I'm going to put my hook in the first stitch, pull up a loop, put my hook in the second stitch, pull up a loop till I've got 3 on my hook, then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And you're just going to do that 8 times all the way around. And it's going to bring you down from 16 stitches to 8. It's actually quite easy. Just making sure you're bringing up your loop. Okay. And what you're going to do is just slip stitch to that first stitch you made. And now what you're going to do is just lightly step him. And I'm just going to use a little bit of this fiber fill here. I'm just going to try and make sure I can get it all the way into his head as best I can. But you're also going to, don't forget, you're going to tie a scarf around his neck at some point too, so that'll give him a bit more definition in his neck. And you're going to trim your tail, leave a little bit of a tail so you can sew his hole closed. And you're just going to fasten off by bringing your tail through and pulling. And now what you're going to do is take your yarn needle and you're going to sew his hole closed a little. So what you're going to do is just pick up the loop pick up the loop, but it's only 1 loop from each stitch. So you're going to kind of create a kind of like a drawstring, so you can pull and make the hole go smaller. That way you can stitch it properly so it doesn't come loose on you. And all I'm going to do is just go kind of back and forth, kind of in the shape of either a star or a hashtag. I'm just going to stitch it just ever so slightly. And I'm just going to trim the tail. And there's the beginning of our snowman. I'm going to put him aside for a second. And actually, we're going to take a second and embroider on some of his facial features. So I'm going to put my hook aside. We don't need that anymore. What you're going to do is you're going to thread your needle. So you're going to make his 2 eyes and his 2 buttons. So I'm going to try and aim for the middle here as best I can. I'm going to kind of start on the bottom and come up as close to the center as I can. Pull my tail through ever so slightly. Okay, I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail sticking out so I can push it in later. And I'm just going to go in and out. So I'm going to go in through the space across and come out of the same hole I just made. I'm just going to do that 2 times, but instead of the second time, I'm just going to go in and come out a couple of stitches down so I can make the second button. Okay, and then I'm going to do that, what I just did, do it again. So it kind of creates the second button, and then I'm going to come up to his face, and I'm going to try and make his eyes. And I'm trying to do this as symmetrical as I can without making a knot in my yarn here. Okay, whatever. There we go. Oop. And if you pull your yarn too hard, just stick your needle and give it a little wiggle back and forth. Okay, so I'm just going to trim this because I created a knot. Not sure how I did that, but I did. But I don't need that much yarn, so it's fine. Okay, and then I'm just going to go in and I'm going to come out a different stitch so I can make his eyes. Now, I'm not going to pull my yarn too tight because I want them to be seen. And then when I'm ready to fasten off, I'm going to try to find the same space I started with. Get the yarn needle to come out that same space. There we go. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of tie this in a knot, and then I'm going to stick it, try to push it into my project as best I can. Just going to trim these tails. And I'm just going to take the back end of my needle and I'm just going to tuck this as fast as I can. Try to tuck it inside. So it looks like you did some sewing, but you can't see the tail that you started with. It may take you a little bit to get the delete scarf on previous clip. So for the scarf, you're going to take your scarf color, start with a slip knot, and you're going to chain 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 20. You're also going to take a minute and you're going to fasten off. Okay, and you can actually take a second as well and weave in your ends. Just weave them in the backs of the stitches, so it looks like a little bit of a neater project. Or if you want to, if you have just a simple knot at the bottom, just trim your end. Now what you're going to do is you're going to tie your scarf to your snowman. Every snowman needs a scarf. You don't have to tie it in a knot, just a simple. There we go. Okay. Okay. And there's our snowman's scarf. Now let's take our white yarn and take it a little bit, and we're just going to make our loop for our ornament so we can hang it on our blanket. For our loop, you're going to do a chain of 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then you're going to fasten off just by trimming your yarn. Don't need much. And you're going to take your yarn needle. You're going to see the top of his head, and you're just going to tie it or sew it on. However you want to attach your loop is okay. I'm just going to put the ends both through the top of his head here. And I'm just going to tie them in a little knot. And I'm actually just going to weave them in now and then trim the ends. Pull those through and then take a second Okay, and there you have it. We have a snowman ornament and a wreath for our tree. And that's it for today, everybody. We made a snowman and a wreath for our Christmas tree calendar blanket that we're making this year. So don't forget to subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned because in the coming weeks I'll still be doing more market prep videos because I have a market on Saturday. So I'll keep you posted on how that goes. And if I have time, I'll take you with me on that day. But don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week for more crochet fun.